Alright, so this is Ricardo Medina's review of Space Cop. This is the first feature film by the people at Red Letter Media. If you know them, they're most popular, most known for their very, very brutal, very, very schadenfreudic reviews of the Star Wars films, Star Wars prequels most notably, and the Next Generation Star Trek films. They have a very they come from an interesting generation of cynical, really biting, sardonic humor. Basically, Space Cop is basically a sci-fi in the same vein of, cheap, approach like how the old canon films are. Those films, the 80s, Roger Corman, all of that. These really, really cheap, on the cheap movies, and it really shows in this film. But it's largely done intentionally. It, again, starring all of the members of the Red Letter Media, cast and crew. Rich Evans, he's most known for his ridiculous laugh, and he's playing the main protagonist, the character of Space Cop. Then you have Jay Bowman, he plays one of the side characters. He's actually quite funny in this. And then you have Mike Stokelaster. Mike Stokelaster is most popularly known as Mr. Plinkett. He does the voice of the character Mr. Plinkett in the Star Wars episode, all the prequel reviews, and the Star Trek TNG reviews. Basically, he's really biting, kind of borderline nitpicky, and you could say they kind of started that whole culture on the internet. They started that paradigm. Not so much like Nostalgia Critic, but something in the same vein as Cinema Sins, or in the same vein as Honest Trailers, those people who just do all of these really biting reviews on the internet about movies. Even though they're good movies, they're okay movies. So in the case of in Space Cop, you have the nature of basically all these like really silly sci-fi tropes. It's a cop in the future, and then he comes back in time, and he has to deal with a guy who's frozen for 60 years. So it really plays on these tropes. The biting sardonic humor is, it really works. A lot of the jokes and the humor mixes, it's based on what you think about their style of humor. It's very juvenile and in many ways quite dated. They make very, very good edgy offense humor. Well, kind of edgy, it depends on how you want to think about it. It's very offensive. They'll make jokes about cancer. The film itself really makes jokes about harming children, and it depends on what you think about it. It's a little grating. The editing is quite good. I think Jay Bowman, he does a lot of the editing. He plays one of the characters. The camera work is a little shaky, and it had a little, but it is largely done intentionally to be, this kind of real old school kind of canon style film, and it's really one of those films that is for the fans by the fans kind of thing. I mean, the Blu-ray sold out, a ton, like almost immediately, like within 17 hours of release, and they started repackaging and remaking a bunch of new ones for people. So I got one. I got a digital copy. I took it in, and I enjoyed it. It did all the tropes of humor. It made a bunch of jokes with respect to gender, and like especially Mike Stokelaster's character, who is an old school detective. So he speaks a lot of like that transatlantic English, like a Humphrey Bogart type, but he constantly makes references to how women can't do this, that, or the other, and then they make a bunch of like time-based jokes now, which is slightly dated. I would totally recommend this film if you're into this style of humor. It's a little grating at times, and it's one of those par for the course type things. And a lot of the humor works. If you're a big fan of Red Letter Media's main review show, which is Half in the Bag, it has that same style of humor. Stuff like Wheel of the Worst and the shows they have on their site. It's basically in the same vein of that style of humor. Just cheap special effects, really, really silly plot with a bunch of like references. They make references to the 20th century again, to things like smoking, and things like you can't smoke in buildings, or they make a bunch of references to a bunch of like jokes. Patton has a great bit where they make a bunch of jokes about the early 2000s and the late 90s. And it's just that. It's just this side, because it's a lot of time travel. It makes references to movies about time travel and how we have to talk about changing zeitgeist in films and changing zeitgeist in pop culture, and they do that. They do that quite well. And yeah, that's it. It's just a simple, really straightforward kind of silly film. It's the first by Red Letter Media. I totally recommend this for people who are fans of the franchise, or fans of people who are watch the Red Letter Media their programming. Again, I totally recommend their reviews. It's very, very funny. Again, biting humor, but it's you could argue whether or not it's quite juvenile. It's really I think it's kind of for like younger teenagers in that vein. and it's just about being incredibly cynical about Hollywood. A lot of their bits and sketch comedy is all about clickbait and a lot of modern media culture, especially when Star Wars was coming along and what they did about that. Again, I do recommend their reviews in particular. Like, say, the review of Man of Steel was like so brutal but so funny at the same time. The review of Boyhood is also quite funny. And yeah, that's the thing. Their style of humor is it's again, as I say, it's a acquired taste. You have to be into that mood. You have to be somewhat knowledgeable about Hollywood and that the insides of the industry, and you get that sense from all of them of the Asian fan who's really disappointed in Hollywood. That's the market they cater to. One could argue that their fan base is a bit pathological, because it's mostly about Schadenfreude about films, and they just like really hate a lot of films nowadays. But I don't really mind either way. I mean, a lot of people actually do defend the Star Wars prequel films, and thought that many of their arguments were pretty like just nitpicky and just kind of bad and just bad, mean-spirited. I kind of on the edge of that, because I think if you're going to do the Schadenfreude kind of humor, you better be funny, and I genuinely think those guys are funny. So that's just as my quick run through of Space Cop. It's not much to talk about because it's just all about the jokes, and you just have to go and see it yourself. It's a lot of really silly humor, again based on zeitgeist jokes, just general slapstick and general mean-spiritedness and what he could get away with. There's this really funny scene with a baby for me. Like, again, stuff like that is hilarious to me. So that's just my quick run-through and review of Space Cop, straight to DVD film from the people at Red Letter Media, Mike, Jay, and Rich. Really funny dudes, so I'll shout out to them. And there's another movie I watched, which is the latest from the Coen brothers.
Hail Caesar.
Yes, Hail Caesar.
If I may intervene.
Yeah.
Hi guys, Matthew. Hey. Yeah, so this is the latest film from the Coen brothers, Joel and Ethan Coen.
Yeah.
They have made a string of, I would say, relatively original films over the past few decades. They've always really made it for themselves to make original stuff, even if they borrow from familiar genres like, say, film noir, mystery, stuff like that. So they've made films such as Raising Arizona,
yeah,
Miller's Crossing, which I really enjoyed. That was a throwback to the old gangster genre.
Yeah.
Barton Fink, which unfortunately I haven't seen.
Oh no, that's the sad part is that you probably won't connect to this latest film because you haven't seen Barton Fink.
Yeah, I know it's about old Hollywood and
right.
about that stuff.
Yeah.
So I forgot to mention they also started with Blood Simple, a very, very, very impressive debut film.
Yeah.
The murder mystery, but a lot of twists, a lot of turns. Really keeps you on the edge of your seat. Fargo, arguably the greatest work, one of the greatest movies of all time, according to the American Film Institute, and according to me. Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, a personal favorite of mine. There was Inside Llewyn.
Inside Llewyn Davis. No, one of my favorites is A Serious Man.
That was the one that I was really kind of like unclear about.
Yeah,
like I understood where they were coming from with this really bleak tone.
Yeah,
I just felt that it just was this kind of ended like
a lot of people interpret it to do with something to do with basically what you call the idea of theodicy and why it is that bad things happen to good people and understanding of the world. Okay, I have a lot to do with religion and
it does.
And just he's a physicist, so it's science and religion and just explaining things, because the entire story, if you notice, it basically he says this line a lot in the movie. I have no idea what's going on.
Oh yeah.
So you could keep going very deep with that idea. Inside Llewyn Davis. This film is so I'll say this film. This is
are we talking about Llewyn Davis? Or?
No. The latest Hail Caesar.
Hail Caesar, yeah.
Right. Hail Caesar. I think how I see it is it's a mix between Inside Llewyn Davis and Barton Fink. That's how it combines in my head.
All right. Now I haven't seen either film, so can you don't have to run through the plot of either one.
Yeah, Barton Fink.
What is the tone of?
In my opinion, Barton Fink is brilliant. Oh, we haven't talked about probably The Big Lebowski, which is.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. I apologize, guys. Yeah. Big Lebowski.
Yeah.
Probably the most popular
movie.
Cult classic.
Yeah.
In every sense of the word.
Right. Anyway,
if you haven't seen it, see it.
Yeah. No, but okay. So for me, Inside Llewyn Davis is about a beatnik musician, guitarist, who is a pretty shitty person. Just a really, really shitty person.
He's mean.
Yeah, very
to everybody,
mean-spirited,
yeah.
very arrogant. He borrows and constantly sponges off of friends and loved ones. He has an alien. I think he has a child. He's more or less alienated from. He doesn't even know that the child exists. He doesn't want to take care of the child. He's just a really shitty person, and it just gets into this basically just straightforward character study starring Oscar Isaac. This came out 2 years ago?
I believe so. I know
Yeah.
it was added to the Criterion Collection last year, and
Right.
because of that, I really kind of motivated to
Yeah.
check it out now.
It's a beautifully shot film, and this one
all
is
that stuff on the trailer. It looked
and
beautiful.
this film is beautifully shot. Same thing with Hail Caesar, beautifully shot. It's basically the idea of it. I think what the whole point of this film is to get into kind of the universality of Hollywood. So another film that was very similar to this that came out late last year. This was Trumbo.
Yeah.
Right. Getting into the history.
Nominated for Best Actor,
Yeah.
Bryan Cranston.
Yeah. Trumbo starring it. Yeah, it's starring Bryan Cranston. It's getting into the whole history of Hollywood and this thing. This one gets into the more the producer side of things.
All right.
And it's about it's Josh Brolin.
Now, one question: was it set around the same time of Trumbo?
Yes, I don't think they ever make any direct reference to Dalton Trumbo or anything like that. But it's roughly the same period of the whole communism, that whole stuff, the communism and the
blacklist.
right, the Hollywood 10, and a lot of that's in the ether in this story as well. And it kind of gets into the Hollywood before. Another thing to it, it's balanced, like similar films like Black Dahlia or Hollywoodland, which it gets into that history of Hollywood thing, but not as dark or pathological. This one, the film is kind of funny.
Kind of funny.
Right. It has, again, an acquired taste in its humor. Again, we get into different styles of humor and, what you think should be funny or not. Now, if you're a Coen fan, you might like this a lot.
All right.
I consider this slightly weaker than Inside Llewyn Davis. And I don't love Inside Llewyn Davis, but it was it had strengths and a lot of things I liked about it. Mostly because of the character work and cinematography. And the story itself was neither here nor there, but it wasn't bad. It was like, it's just a good character study. It's not about the plot. It's just about, look how the shitty person is navigating life. And it's, again, getting to a particular type of personality, which is people who think they're going to be successful. They act as if they're successful, but they're not successful at all. That is what...
I'm not thinking that this movie is weird by any stretch of imagination.
No.
But is it the way how it's done? Because I know it divided a lot of people. Some people didn't understand the humor. Other people were expecting this non-stop laugh.
Yeah, no, it was okay. So the trailer,
so,
I'll say the trailer is incredibly misleading.
Yeah,
That's how
from what I've heard.
From what I understand, right? Yeah, no, it's very, very misleading. I was like, that is where you went with it, and I was like, okay. It's the thing is, if I talk about it, sadly, it'll spoil the film, and I don't want to spoil the film because the entire strength of what it is it's not like a big reveal or anything. It's just the direction it goes and what they want to say about modern Hollywood. And I think a big part of it was not so much Hollywood, but the universality of the nature of the business, which is, you think Hollywood is so crazy and strange now? Well, it was kind of like that back then.
Yeah.
And then it might be like that
in the future.
In the future, So roughly 50 years ago, it was like this, but it was basically the only difference in today's world is just how much faster everything is. So it's basically shenanigans with actors pre-TMZ. Long before TMZ, and that's what Josh Brolin's character is. Josh Brolin's character is like, he had to fix bullshit, fix people mess, and as a producer, he has to jump around and do a lot of issues, a lot of address their problems and issues. Other characters that came in, people like Scarlett Johansson was quite good in this. She actually plays a really interesting role.
Not surprising, of course. She was fantastic.
She was quite good in this. She does an interesting, like, a lot of people are talking about her accent and how it's an accent she never did before. I didn't notice.
What type of accent was it?
It's kind of like a New York Bronx kind of something.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I never noticed. Then this fella, 21 Jump Street. I always forget his name.
Not Channing. No.
Yeah, Channing Tatum.
No.
Right.
Channing Tatum. The other one.
No, Channing Tatum.
Oh,
Channing Tatum is
in
in this. He plays like a Gene Kelly allegory. So he's dancing, sailor outfit. Right. And they bring him. He's actually not that important in the film. I'm surprised.
Okay, and then of course, let me guess. He starts off like he's a guy who sings a lot.
Right.
Or he could act very well. He could do one thing good, but then when he's something else, he can't do it at all.
Yeah, they didn't spend that much. They didn't spend that much time on it with his character. Another character I liked was of course, star George Clooney.
Yeah,
he was pretty arbitrary. He's basically a character so Josh Brolin's character is just a total boss in the sense of, look, he tell you jump, you say how high. You just barking orders at people and basically running around. And it's basically this big classic reference and love letter. I won't say love letter, but yeah, a big reference to what old Hollywood was.
Yeah,
The
a
nature
lot
of
of
the
people
business.
describe the film
Right,
as a love letter.
right. A lot of people. Right, I can agree with that. I didn't watch any reviews before seeing it. I just went in blind, and I was like, okay, cool. Was it as it wasn't as blatant as Trumbo in terms of the message.
Right.
But it was still solid. I'll give this just do a quick rating. Okay, just rushing through it. And it's not much
because the less you reveal, the better.
right. Yeah,
it's one of those type
that's
of
the
shows.
problem. So what I'll say is that I give it a high cinemas 8. Right. You know, if anything, a barely low movie tongue on my scale of IMAX to Capsco.
But as a Coen Brothers film, it delivers, right? Like
no, okay. So as a
visually
Coen Brothers
optimized.
film, visually it delivers. I'd say it's slightly weaker than Inside Llewyn Davis. And Inside Llewyn Davis was pretty low on the Coens. For a Coen film, it's quite low, right? You know.
No, I thought with, because it's on the Criterion Collection. Yes, I'm a huge fan of the Criterion Collection. I thought like we should play it like high esteem or something like that.
It's a brilliant, like Inside Llewyn Davis is a brilliant film in that way. But same thing with this one. You could get why Coen fans would like it. You get why but a lot of fans will like, no, they kind of fall off with this one. Not really. I still think they're there. I get what they're trying to do. It is a bit aimless. That's my only issue.
Okay. Is it something that will will get better if you watch it a couple
yes,
more times?
it's strong possibility of that. I will make an effort to go see this a second time to give it a proper, like, to just see if my opinions stay. I watched it yesterday, at the time of this recording,
Right.
so it still have to process in my head a lot. But that's the thing. I'll just give it that rating in the sense of it's not worth discussing too much about. Of course, we forget about where's the other classic Coen with Javier Bardem putting holes in people's skulls with a cow punch.
Oh yes, No Country for Old Men. Another favorite of mine. They won the best picture for that.
Yeah.
Still a great movie. Still a very bleak movie. Very bleak, but
Yeah.
bleak in a good way.